So content marketing, the reason that I love it so much is that each piece of content you put out, basically, it's directly correlated to what passive income does. Every piece of content you put out kind of becomes a soldier that you put out in the world that is constantly selling for you. It's, every piece of content, whether it's video or podcast or blog post, Instagram post, these things are all working for you. They're all just like hundreds of sales pages that are doing the work on your behalf. And the bigger of an audience you build, the more leverage you have at every stage of your business. So like I said, I focus all of my time and attention on building my audience, knowing that my business would blow up when it was meant to. I had 3 7-figure offers to partner with people simply because of my audience size. Like, I didn't have that impressive of an email list. I only crossed 10,000 people in my 3rd year of business, which, as a lot of you know, email lists really matter, and that's not that sizable for someone that has over 1 million readers a month. And I got those partnership offers exclusively because of my traffic. So it's a big deal. And I also want to emphasize that I'm not special. I hadn't written anything ever before I started writing online 4.5 years ago. I still don't consider myself or my writing that, like, in terms of actual quality, that impressive at all. I just followed a system and the thing just picked up momentum with time. So it's a very doable thing. So the next piece, and kind of the first piece in the more action-oriented stuff, is really getting deeply, empathetically connected with what your core demographic is. And this person has to be a living, breathing person you can picture. Like, it's even good to build a literal vision board with one person's photo and all the core traits about their lives. Depending on what your business is, it's pretty likely that your core demographic is some former iteration of you. So you 2 years ago, you 10 years ago, you 20 years ago. Really dive into that person's mindset, what their struggles are, and sit with that. The second piece, which will really extract what kind of content you should make, in what form, and what topics, is something that I call the timeline exercise. I think this is one of the best nuggets of the day, so if you haven't picked up your pen yet, this is the first one to really chew on. So the timeline exercise is, after you have your core demographic, that one personality profile in your mind that you are looking to serve, go through the entire timeline of them and their process when they are about to be thinking of having this pain point, to having this pain point, all the iterations of what that looks like, all the way through the completion of it. So you really become the content leader with every pain point that they have. If you're writing 2,000-word, high-quality articles about every question that they could possibly be Googling, when you've done that 50 times, 100 times, 200 times, the market dominance that you bring to your niche snowballs really, really quickly. And again, this is an exercise in empathy. So really digging into, like, what do their thoughts sound like? What are they really chewing on when they're going to bed at night, thinking, this is the worst thing in my life, I need someone to solve this for me? And think, what exact words would that person with that exact pain point at that point in their life, what would they Google? And if you're not the #1 match for that, or at least in the first 3 to 5 things, then you're missing out on really significant business. Like I said, I'm going to plow through the content, and then Q&A is going to be drilling a lot of this stuff even further in. So in terms of creation, most of my trajectory in online business has been writing. So in terms of progression, I would say I have the most mastery with writing blog posts, then books, then videos, then podcasts and audio stuff last. So a lot of this is being seen through the filter of how I've gone, but these foundational things apply across the board. So in terms of creation, it's generally best to batch produce. Most people create the best that way. Most people are either morning producers or nighttime producers. That is just something that you'll find out through trial and error. Me, I've done 99% of all my writing, books, and articles between 4 and 7 a.m. before sunrise. And some people hear that and they're like, you're insane, that sounds like a nightmare. But I really thrive in it. And other people, like Tim Ferriss, like to start writing at 10 o'clock at night when it's dark and drink a bottle of wine while they're writing their books. So like everything works. You just have to test what works for you. The next piece in terms of how to best structure any piece of content so that it ranks the best but also helps people the most. This is the second major piece, so timeline exercise number 1. This piece I would also recommend writing down if you're a lean note taker. PPTW. Problem, proposition, tips, wrap up. So I'll break down each of those somewhat. So problem, you start off with, someone broke your locks, or you're not converting enough leads, or you suck at public speaking. Whatever the pain point is, it starts with the problem of, have you ever da-da-da, however you frame, this is the issue that you're having. Go into that for a couple of paragraphs, then the proposition. What if it could be better? What if you woke up and this was different? Can you imagine what the other side of this pain point would look like? Proposition is kind of like building up momentum for you about to change or about to be changing their lives. Tips, whether you number them or bullet point them or just put them in essay format is irrelevant. And then wrap up, also known as call to action. The wrap up is, hey, I'm reminding you, here's what I've just taught you. Call to action is, share this with a friend, or take this action in your life today, or download my How to Eat Like an Athlete ebook, etc. PPTW, problem, proposition, tips, wrap up. Next piece is feedback. Next piece is guest posts. One of the most common questions that I get from people is, how do you build market dominance in terms of not just being everywhere through your social media channels because of your original on-site content, or in-app content if you're more of a podcaster or YouTuber. The biggest thing that I kind of start with, which is the furthest upstream, is really working on people's psychology around guest posting. People think that their ideal 5 websites they could never get on because, I only have 20,000 unique visitors a month, or whatever their traffic or email list is at. But if you really come at it from the truthful place of realizing that every site, no matter if they're page rank 2 or 9, is looking for high quality content, as long as you're bringing relevant, amazing stuff, they will want it. And yes, persistence is a thing, and you might have to bang on a few doors, several times before you get your favorite top ranking links to point back to your site. But just start there, that if you're writing good enough stuff, then you're doing them a favor as well. And if the content you're putting out is more than enough valuable to offset the time that it takes for that person to create a profile for you on their site, then you'll be fine. Rinse, repeat. I could dive into that for like another hour. I don't know if I mentioned this off the top, but the last time I did a talk on this stuff, it was like 5.5 hours and I still didn't have enough time. So I'm really just jamming it down your throats right now. I hope, I'll take one breath and we'll get back into it. Guest posts. So on that, I also recommend the exercise of writing down your kind of top 20 hit list of who are the people, places, podcasts, blogs, et cetera, that I want to be featured on. And then really do your homework. I'm very of the mindset of doing quality over quantity, not just in terms of your own on-site content creation, but also in the networking or approaching that you're doing online with other people. I think that doing 5 well-researched, hyper-relevant contextual pitches to your top 5 dream team is going to get you a lot further than doing a copy and paste bullshit response to your top 100 bloggers and all of them feeling unseen and frustrated, and you're just an instant delete. Plus the quality of links and Google juice that you get from landing one of those 5 versus likely 0 of the 100 with that latter approach is just going to be that much better for your site long term. There's another piece on guest posting. Right, so when you do land a few consistent things, whether it's, again, being interviewed on one person's podcast or consistently guest posting on someone else's site and driving traffic back to yourself, I recommend doing at least 5 pieces of content on each of those things that have said yes to you to give it a fair shot to see which one not only gives me traffic and a page rank boost, but which one do I actually get converting customers from? Because that's often a surprise. If you're not looking at the data of, sure, I'm getting the most clicks from these people, you might get a ton of clicks from YouTube and Reddit, and you're like, ooh, vanity metrics, I'm getting 300 clicks a day. But if they convert at 0%, it doesn't mean anything. In fact, you're just paying traffic costs unnecessarily. Which, reminding myself of that, my own time, yeah, killing it. So that's another piece of why I love guest posting and putting content on not just your own site, but everywhere else, is that you pay lower traffic costs, and because everyone else is kind of like sifting through those leads for you, the only people that click through to your site are like the hottest, most engaged leads possible. So, an example off the top of my head would be if you were in the gold mining, like gold rush days, and you could hire someone to like sift through all the pebbles and just bring you the gold. To me, that's what I see content marketing off-site as. For an easy example, so I have about 500 to 600,000 uniques on my site per month, and I have 1 to 2 million unique readers to my writing off-site on the Good Man Project and Elephant Journal and a couple of different websites that are relationship focused. So steal that, guys, please. Yeah, and so because of that, let's say I get like 500 clicks a day from the Good Man Project. Those people are all the most excited to figure out, more of what I'm about. Like they've read a few articles off-site, other people are paying those traffic costs, and then the people are like, I really where's his email list? I need to go further down this funnel. Like, that to me is just so invaluable, that the average lead quality on-site is that much higher. Okay, and I will end on, for the structured part of this talk, one of the things that people ask me a lot is, what's the relationship between quality versus quantity, especially when you're starting out? This can be a pretty common question. I just saw like 8 heads nod, so I hit a spot with that one. Early days, so I see this as like a continuum, it's kind of a sliding scale. Early days, you want to be somewhat more quantity focused, but never, you're not just like a content mill where you're pumping out 3 articles a day and it's such horrendous crap that of course no one's going to convert or care about your funnel or free ebook to go further into learning more about you. You should always be somewhat mindful of, am I actually providing value or am I just trying to impress Google's algorithm, because they'll find that and they'll crush that in no time. It's, quality is always prioritized in the long term, and every Google update that will ever happen for the rest of eternity is just purely interested in customer experience or user experience, whatever they see their leads as. So in the early days, it's relatively more 80-20, 80% quantity, thank you, and 20% quality. It even feels minimizing to say, but you get where I'm going with this analogy. And then, a year, 2 years, 3 years into it, you're increasingly sliding the scale towards, say you have 200, 300 pieces of content out, then you can really afford, and you have some search traffic and a bunch of links pointing at you, you can afford to spend, several weeks on a 4,000 or 5,000 word post that is going to rank for the search term that you've been like, it's just like this juicy thing that you're like, oh, I Googled this search term and the first 10 things sucked and I'm totally gonna beat these. You're allowed to spend time on that. You don't just have to crank just for the sake of having a huge word count on site. Again, speaking as a writer, but this applies with everything. You doing 3 podcast episodes a day for your first 6 months of business development doesn't mean you're gonna have a top ranked podcast if the mic quality is horrendous and no one likes your guests or content, etc.